The Green Art. Figured it would be nice to do a little video exploring just some of the core concepts of the Green Art, where these traditions and practices come from, how they express themselves, the specific trappings of our tradition, and ultimately the goals that we are striving toward in working the art and working the mysteries. So first and foremost, the greenness of the art lets you know that our tradition focuses almost exclusively on the plant spirits, all those beings who reside or are rooted in the other world, the world below, the green realm, the world of Fae, and fruit in our world. They are liminal beings who have the power of dual citizenship. They exist in two places at once, with the roots down in the darkness and the canopies up in the light. And they are the providers of all sustenance of life. And so even outside of the more sorcerous occult applications of plant spirit work, it really does make sense for us human folk to have a good relationship with the plants, because we are frankly codependent on them in every way. Plants give us a lot of our oxygen, they clean the air, they provide us with food, medicine, nourishment, shelter, fiber, fuel, beauty. Pretty much everything that we do as human beings is in one way or another wrapped up in the world of the plants. So just on a practical level, it makes sense to have a good relationship with them. And when we dig deeper into the more occult, mystery, and ritualistic levels of our plant spirit relationships, we find that those blessings, those gifts of the green realm are just the beginning. So those are symbolic of who the plants really are and what they have the ability to do in helping us to craft a life of harmony and wellness and magic. So in the Green Art tradition, we focus on art, which is spelled with an E, taking it back to its original etymological roots, kind of before art was limited to aesthetic expression, artistic talent, and back to that root where it's almost synonymous with the word craft, meaning skill, ability, and talent obtained by study, dedication, and practice. So this is a tradition of work, right? Of honing skills, of sharpening abilities, and above all things, cultivating and nourishing relationships. This is very much a tradition, sorcerous and animistic in nature, that without our relationships in the green realm, there's not really a point to doing any of it. So the Green Art is all about bringing us into right relationships with the kindred three. And so in our tradition, we're working with three main sort of loose groups of kindred, even though there's a lot of fuzzy overlap. The elder gods of our tradition of the wild ways of the green realm, the plant spirits all, and that also overlaps with the land spirits and spirits of place, and then of course our good and mighty dead. So those three kindred inform, guide, and guard our practices. We align to the subtle and not so subtle rhythms of nature by following the seasons, by looking to the plants that grow around us and seeing where their life cycle is at any given moment, and trying to participate intentionally in that life cycle. So in the autumn time, when the plants are lowering their vitality, their vital force down into their roots, back into the other world, leaves are coming off, fruits are dropping to the ground to compost, their branches are becoming bare, we also follow this and move deeper within to our mysterious work within the dark spaces. In the spring, when the sap rises and the plants come to life and they return to our world from their respite in the other world, we also do ritualistic workings to align to that. So we're very much following the patterns set by the plant spirits in our wheel of the year and our ritual cycle. And our magics, which there are many, are woven with the idea of medicine, creating wellness and harmony and ease in the lives of ourselves and in the people that we serve. And our magics are folk animist in nature. They are not ceremonial. They're not very theatrical. They're actually incredibly simple. And they're based on our personal relationships with specific plant spirits. So the magics that we do are more akin to petitionary work than they are to ceremonial or hyper ritualized forms of complicated magics. And they are very much not recipe spell crafting. You know, these are the ingredients you need, these are the things you say, this is what you do. We really stay away from these reductionist models of magic and move more into dynamic, relationship oriented models of living magic and medicine. So, as I've mentioned a few times, the real core of everything that we do is about entering into conscious and intentional devotional relationships with the plant spirits and their guardians, the elder gods. And one of the ways that we do that forms a very important core to our tradition, and that is journey by spirit into the green realm, into the other world. So we experience that the plant spirits, while they have a presence in our world, are ultimately rooted in the unseen. If you think about any tree, right? You can see the crown, the trunk, the canopy, the branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. But you also are aware that there is an entire structure of that tree, the root and rhizome system, that extends down below the surface of the soil where we cannot perceive. It's in the darkness, it's in the unformed and untamed, some may say a little bit chaotic. And we recognize that the tree is teaching by example that all things draw from the world below, not literally below, but the world that lies underneath our own, in the way that the metabolism lies underneath the heat of the body, that the subconscious mind lies underneath the conscious mind. It's the substrate or matrix upon which our world is built and is sustained. So we spend a great deal of effort honing our skills, our abilities to jump the hedge, to jump the boundary that separates our world from the green realm, the world of the plant spirits. And in so doing, rather than having to rely on the recipes and relationships of others for our work, we actually enter into direct allyship, familiar spirit relationships with the plants and can learn from them directly. We, of course, take great inspiration and edification and empowerment from the grammars and grimoires that have been passed down from our ancestors of many traditions, but we recognize that we are who we are, where we are, when we are, and that the real power of folk animistic art or sorceress craft is that it's happening in the moment. It's always relevant and fresh and bendable. It's incredibly adaptogenic. So we take inspiration from the past, but we embrace our relationships here and now, and we seek these sort of apprentice-mentor relationships with the great and mighty plant spirits and the gods. And the way that we work with the elder gods is varied and diverse. There are, throughout the Celtic Isles and the Old World, many examples of deities, of gods who have a close affinity or whose area of influence is directly related to the green realm. And those are the deities that we tend to align ourselves to most, being folks who work pretty exclusively with the plant spirits. So you certainly can explore the lore and the myth and find those personalities and connect with them. There's no real right or wrong way, but we definitely do like to ally ourselves to the great ones, the old ones who are protectors of the plant spirits, guardians of the green mysteries, keepers of the ancient tracks. They are very much the initiators, and in many cases, they are the ones who sort of matchmake us with our plant spirit familiars. They're the ones who create those relationships or open the ways so that we can connect more deeply with the plant spirits that become our familiars. So the green art is rooted very fiercely in animism, meaning that we acknowledge the lie of human exceptionalism, that the world is filled with persons, only some of them are human. A very small amount of them are human, actually. The world is populated with all kinds of people who are conscious, wise, aware, sovereign, and powerful, and that when we step out into the world with the experience and the awareness that we are neither the only people in the world, but also not the most important people in the world. We don't hold any kind of supremacy over any other beings. We suddenly wake back up this sense of magic and wonder and unknowing. It allows us to go back to these magical spaces where a lot of us lived as kids before we were conditioned to believe that the world was kind of just what it was at face value, and humans had this superiority or dominance or control over nature. The animistic perspective, which is the oldest spiritual perspective in the world and also the most rampant, we find that every ancient tradition, if you trace them back far enough pre-conversion, in some cases pre-colonization, they come to animistic roots where people are living as part of nature, as integral to nature, with a deep and acute awareness of the importance of right relationships, living in good harmony with the neighbors, both seen and unseen. And of course, in our tradition, we are, again, very focused on the plant spirits, but there is a radical embracing and acknowledgement of the personhood and sovereignty of animals and insects and thunderstorms and mountains and rivers and ponds, beings who we can perceive with our usual senses, and those that we can only perceive when we travel by spirit into the land. And so this idea of relationship is huge in our work, and it leads to reciprocity, meaning that we intentionally enter into relationships of intimacy with certain spirits that we feel called to, that we have an affinity to, that share areas of influence with us, the ones that call us, the ones that the gods bring to us. And that reciprocity is also called sacred hospitality, means that we step into this dynamic cycle of give and receive. And it allows a current of power to move from our world to the other world back to our world in this infinite cycle of give and receive, of gift and payment. And it makes things have a levity, a power to them, knowing that we are not only in relationship with beings of otherness, but that their power flows through us and our virtues in turn flow through them. And that it brings us really back into nature, back into being part of the world, feeling at home here. And so many people who are called to these mysteries feel incredibly alienated or uncomfortable, or like they don't belong kind of in the world. Usually mostly based on culture. The culture that they live in doesn't really align to their own set of internal ethics. So we're kind of walking around feeling like in the world, but not of it. And the green art, these practices, these ancient ways made modern, are an invitation and an initiation back into being part of, integral to, so that we realize we are as much a part of nature as the mountain, the bear, the pond, the thunderstorm. We are also important that way. And so lots of relationship, lots of reciprocity, and lots of ritual. This is not an armchair philosophy. It's very easy for people to get stuck in their heads when it comes to mystery traditions and magico-ritual traditions, and spirituality in general, really. We are very focused on what we do being more important than what we think. Showing up fully with the virtues that we carry to participate in the wholeness of things, to add our harmony to the universe, to nudge things a little further into the direction of cosmos and a little further away from the chaos. And so our rituals, as I mentioned earlier, very simple, very organic, very heartfelt, very in the moment, where other nature-based magical traditions might have kind of bigger theatrical, grandiose formats of how the different seasonal shifts need to be honored, or the lunar tides need to be honored. Ours tend to be quite quiet and more about communion, and really showing up to honor and acknowledge the shifts and all of the gifts that come from it, and then participating through magic in the sort of particular energetics that are available as those different seasonal shifts happen. We particularly honor 6 markings throughout the wheel of the year rather than the standard 8. 4 of them are our core fates, or our 4 celebrations of seasonal shifts. 2 of them are the ends of the pole, which the wheel of the year spins around. So we have a slightly different wheel that's very agrarian, very vegetal in nature. It is very much guided and informed by the subtle patterns of the plant spirits and the plant spirits' relationship to Earth, Sun, and Moon. So there are so many other things to be said, and I don't know that I've necessarily covered everything in the basics, but I think this is a good start. And what is to come is lots of classes where we will sort of just cover all kinds of different aspects and perspectives of this work and what's possible, talking a lot about the plant spirits, and we'll just sort of see where it goes. But I did want to break the ice and give you a little bit of an introduction so you kind of know what to expect. So until next time, hopefully the videos will be coming very consistently. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Visit me at thegreenart.com for all the details and classes and courses and books and all of that stuff, and I will see you soon.